On the season 11 finale of Hitting the Field, we got NFL, we got college football. Derrick Henry tore it up yesterday. So did Tyreek Hill. COVID is absolutely destroying all the sports. And then in college football, Sarah Fuller made NCAA history, being the first woman on an active college football roster. Jaret Patterson, fellow Jaret of mine, absolutely beast mode. And Jim Harbaugh, see ya, bud. Hitting the Field starts now.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
Welcome to this episode of Hitting the Field. Yes, it is the season 11 finale. It's been a long season, but we've come to the end. But we're not going to let you go without dropping some content first. And today I got John Alfano and Sam Sullivan joining me. Gentlemen, we'll start with you, John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Always a pleasure to be here.
All right. And I guess, Sam, it's been a while. Finally got you back on. How's it been?
It's been good. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk about everything going on with NFL and, of course, COVID.
Well, of course, we got to start with probably the biggest. There were two big performers from the day, and we'll start with one of them. First one coming from the 1 o'clock games would be Derrick Henry, a monster performance, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns, only on 27 carries. Dude's an absolute beast running over the competition in the NFL. John, what are your thoughts? What is Derrick Henry doing right?
He's just proven that he's by far the best running back in the NFL, and I should note he did almost all of that in the first half. He just runs over people.
Sam, it was just a monster day for Derrick Henry. The Titans, they're just riding him. They're just riding on his back.
They should. He's the franchise player of that team. He's leading the NFL in rushing. He's second in rushing touchdowns, and I think for me that game just solidified that he is a shoo-in for Offensive Player of the Year. And with that game, he also just entered the MVP conversation. He's like John said, he's probably the greatest running back in the league right now. And, yeah, their success comes strictly from him.
Now, for the Titans as a whole, this was a huge win because this now solidifies them in sole first place of the division. Honestly, it's a race between the Titans and the Colts, but they have not played each other. They split 1-1. John, who do you see taking this division? Is it the Titans to win, or is it the Colts to come back and take?
I have the Titans winning. I think they're a more well-rounded team overall. They've got a much better offense, and while their defense isn't as good, they can still ball out when it's needed. The Colts have an elite defense, but their offense has been very inconsistent this year.
Yeah, I'd agree. They're all over the place. Who knows what Philip Rivers is going to do? Sam, would you agree with that? Is it the Titans division now?
I would say so. I would say that game kind of just that gave them even more of a mental boost that they really needed. And yeah, I see them winning this division at either it could be, what are they? They're 8-3 right now. I could see them winning it at either 12-4 or 11-5.
On the flip side of the ball, though, the Colts looked a little lost without Jonathan Taylor. They just could not get their run game going at all. They're averaging 2.7 yards a carry. John, do you think that Jonathan Taylor has been more impactful than we originally thought, or, some people aren't giving him credit for?
I would say so. It looked like you said, it looked like nothing clicked for them. They ended the day with only 56 yards of rushing on 21 carries. And if you're going to be a contender in the playoffs, you can't do that, especially when you have a struggling Philip Rivers at quarterback.
I would agree. Closing thoughts, Sam? Jonathan Taylor, he's put together a good rookie season so far. Do the Colts need him back to be successful?
I think they do. I think they made a big deal about the fact that they drafted him in the second round, I believe, as when they had Marlon Mack and Hines already on their team. Of course, Mack got hurt very early on, but if you draft him that early, you want him to be a huge impact on this team, and he has been. And without having him, it just kind of shows what kind of team they are. And then on top of that, said in the game yesterday, it's T.Y. Hilton's first touchdown of the year. That just can't happen at all. I know he's been in the league for a while, but he's a huge impact on that team, and he needs to be more of one for these future weeks.
Yeah, I'd agree. Then you got to get your playmakers involved. You know what? Still a couple weeks left. Colts got a lot of time to turn it around. They're only one game back. But moving over to the second performer from the day, who probably had the best statistical day in modern NFL history, best statistical quarter, Tyreek Hill had 13 catches for 269 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had over 200 yards in the first quarter. John, I think you blinked and Hill was scoring another touchdown. I mean, what was Hill doing to the Tampa Bay defense?
Things that made me very not happy as a Bucs fan. He showed that you cannot cover him one-on-one. Carlton Davis is a decent cornerback, and he got burned repeatedly throughout the game because he had no safety help. It's almost unfair how good this Chiefs offense is.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Sam, I mean, Tyreek Hill was doing everything. Peace sign, backflips, burning people. I don't know what else. He called the National Guard. Like,
yeah, exactly. It really should come as no surprise. I mean, he's just an amazing player, really, and it's the routes that he always runs. He always runs these post routes from the seam, from the slot position, and just gets that safety to either choose, oh, am I going to go left side or am I going to follow him right? And it just showed on both plays that you have to double him, like John said. You can't just have one guy on him. And if you're going to have one guy on him, you got to play like 15 yards back, because that's just what he's great at is just running downfield with that ball. And just, yeah, I mean, he had more receiving yards and TDs than Gronk, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin combined. So I think that says something about him.
I mean, John, one big question or one focal point that I want to bring up here is Patrick Mahomes somehow seems to get better with every single week, which to me is scary considering he's the reigning or a former MVP and a Super Bowl champ. What do you think the Chiefs' rest of the season is going to look like?
I see them as Super Bowl champions right now, far and away. I think even though they're not going to have home field in the playoffs, most likely, I still see them running the table and going back to Tampa and reclaiming Lombardi.
I could see that too. They just demolished the Bucs in the stadium that it's going to be played in. Sam, I mean, arguably the Chiefs should possibly be undefeated. I mean, granted, the Raiders played a great game back earlier in the season, but the Chiefs are sitting 10-1. Really, they should be the best team in the NFL. Do you think they're the best team in the NFL, or is someone else still better?
No, I think they're the best team in the NFL, and I think that kind of set it in stone yesterday with that matchup. Yeah, I just feel like that Andy Reid Mahomes duo is it's the greatest thing for Patrick Mahomes as well as it's the greatest thing for Andy Reid. I think that the connection that they have and the offense that they create is just so amazing. They just know how to get everybody involved and just heighten Patrick Mahomes' skills and being able to just read defenses and just get it to his playmakers. So, like John said, they could be walking away with the Super Bowl in February, just where they played.
Well, Sam, you just mentioned the duo of Mahomes and Andy Reid. I want to focus on the other side now, the duo of Brady and Bruce Arians, which has not looked good all season. There's rumors that they're not getting along. Sam, what do you do if you're the Bucs? Like, how do you fix this?
It's just a matter of accountability. I mean, we saw what Bruce Arians said before this game earlier in the week about how he's just said straight up, our quarterback needs to play better. But I think that comes on both sides. I think he needs to be able to, prepare this defense a little bit better. They're a great team. They are a really good team. And it's not just like they're a great team on paper like we say about the Dallas Cowboys every year. But this is a great team, and they have great coaches around them. It's just preparation, really, just knowing what's going to be coming at them. And, yeah, I mean, I could – obviously, I see them making the playoffs, but we also know what kind of player Brady is in the playoffs, so you really don't know what to expect from this team.
John, do you think the Bucs are in trouble here, or is Brady in trouble? Bruce Arians, what do you think?
I think the team as a whole needs some time to reflect, and it's a good thing they have the bye week coming up. In my opinion, Arians hasn't done a good job of adjusting his scheme to fit Brady's strengths right now. He's trying to make him into a gunslinger, and he's never been that, much less at 43. And it showed a couple times, even when he made that a spectacular deep ball to Chris Godwin. He threw a pick on the very next play. And Brady, yeah, like I said, Brady just can't be a gunslinger right now, and he has to focus more on the short game.
I mean, I think the one thing with Brady is turnovers. It really hasn't been something that's like plagued his career. It's never been something that has been the reason of his downfall, but turnovers have come heavy and often for him, and it almost seems to be a Tampa Bay curse. I mean, John, do you think Tampa's kind of cursed, or is Brady just struggling right now?
Well, I mean, considering we haven't made the playoffs in the past 13 years, kind of. But like I believe Carson Palmer said in an interview a while back that quarterbacks throw a lot of picks in the first year of Bruce Arians' system. And that's no different even with the GOAT Tom Brady under center. Trying to think here.
No, I'd agree. I mean, it's tough to play, and there's no preseason, which, I mean, I think that can hurt quite a lot. Sam, closing thoughts. Brady looks like the GOAT one week. He looks like Jameis Winston the next. What is he going to show up the rest of the season?
He needs to. I wish I could tell you a solidified answer because it really is inconsistent week in and week out. But yeah, you really don't know, but there's a possibility.
You know what? We'll see. But you know what? I want to jump into more quarterback talk because quarterbacks kind of run the league. And this is going to come as to a surprise, but there might be a quarterback controversy in Miami. Tua Tagovailoa did not play yesterday due to a thumb injury, which, again, I find very, very weird. But Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yes, it was the Jets, but made some good throws. Honestly, looked better than Tua did passing the football. John, is there quarterback controversy in Miami?
There could be. I know Brian Flores has said that he wants to keep Tua as the starter, but with how Fitzpatrick has played most of the season, you could make a very solid argument that he should be the starter. I think the most important thing is that they don't try to rush Tua back because they clearly have a capable quarterback in Fitzpatrick while he's on the sideline.
Sam, would you agree with that? Is it Fitzpatrick's team, or is Tua going to slowly come back?
I agree fully with what Jonathan said. I mean, if it's Brian Flores has made it clear that this is Tua's team, and I think everybody knew when you drafted Tua that it comes with a bit of injury issues, but Fitzmagic came picked up right where he left off, and if Tua's not able to come back next week, but he is able to come back in week 14. That is a tough decision to make considering that they're playing the Chiefs. And that's not a game that you could just throw in the garbage and say that the Chiefs are going to win. This could be a very big game. And if you have that decision as Brian Flores to make, that's going to be a tough one, honestly.
I mean, the thing is, so a couple weeks ago when they announced they were starting Tua, I had said, you know what, they have to because if Fitzpatrick keeps winning, you're not going to be able to justify benching him because – you don't bench winning, but they want Tua to be the future. So do you want to win now or do you want to build for the future? I think that's the question the Dolphins are faced with. John, if you're winning now, if you want to win right now, which quarterback would you go with?
I would go with Fitzpatrick for right now because you'd give Tua more time to rest and heal, and you're not jeopardizing your future while also giving yourself a great chance to win.
So you're saying that Fitzpatrick is the better quarterback right now? I don't want to is it?
I do think so. Tua will eventually pass him, but right now he needs time to develop.
I'd agree with that. I'd say Tua does have the brighter future, but I would say Fitzpatrick is better in the now. Sam, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think for the now, I mean, they're 7-4 right now. I think Fitzpatrick is what's need to stay in really. If they're in a playoff position and they could obviously make the playoffs and potentially win a game, but yeah, I think you gotta stick with Fitzpatrick for right now.
I mean, yeah, they started 1-3, and then Fitzpatrick rallied off 5 straight, and then that Denver loss in which Tua did not look good, and Fitzpatrick when he came in did not look good. So I guess it comes down to quarterback play in Miami. It always has been. Matt Moore saved them a couple of years ago and put together a good season. So we'll see. I'm really excited actually, being from Miami and my friends that are Dolphin fans. We'll see. But I got to go into the team that no one is talking about, the organization that is 12-0 through 12 weeks. Yes, that is COVID-19. They are undefeated once again. They really haven't dropped a game all year, and it's actually astonishing that the NFL is doing nothing to stop them because they are unstoppable. They ruined Thanksgiving, first of all. We had no Ravens Steelers. That game got canned. We'll start there, actually. John, is that game even going to be played tomorrow? Or as of right now, this is in the afternoon on a Monday. Do we think, by the time this goes up, is this game going to even happen tomorrow?
At this point, I doubt it. The Ravens had to close their practice facility again today to deal with presumably more cases. And plus, Pittsburgh is now dealing with cases of its own. I believe James Conner tested positive over the weekend, which you really don't want to see for a cancer survivor. And I doubt it at this point.
Sam, is the NFL even handling this right? Should this game even be played tomorrow?
Yeah, it shouldn't be played tomorrow, but I still feel like they're going to make a way to try and do it. It's a tricky, tough situation. The NFL has done their best to try and manipulate the schedule as best as they can. But yeah, for these cases to be going around like this and how crazy it is, it just really comes into question the protocols that are being put in place and, what really needs to be altered for this not to happen. You're putting, it's for the audience to enjoy these games, but you're putting players' lives at jeopardy, not only just from the game of football, but with this pandemic as well.
No, I'd agree. And to look at the fact that it took 12 weeks for the NFL to enforce masks on the sideline, for the NFL to come out and say Monday and Tuesday of this week that all facilities will be closed unless you have a game on those days. And then we'll look back at Saturday night. I am sitting at dinner, and on the TV comes breaking news: Broncos have no eligible QBs to play. And excuse me? What? So for those of you that live under a rock or don't follow sports and are just watching the show, all three of the Broncos quarterbacks on their roster were ruled high risk to COVID-19 and needed to quarantine for 5 days minimum to be cleared to play. This was announced Saturday night. The NFL chose Sunday to still go on and play the football game with no quarterback. Now, my question to you is, yes, it was agreed upon, I guess, preseason that certain rules and stuff. Where is the competitive integrity? We should have just not let – that game should have been played. We just should have said, hey, Saints, you win. John, would you agree that that was the wrong decision to play, or did you think it was the right decision to play?
I feel like it's unfair for the Broncos to have been forced to play in that situation. The Ravens have an outbreak and they get their game pushed back twice. So it seems like the NFL is kind of doing their best to protect their poster boys, and I think that's really not fair in this pandemic.
Lamar Jackson gets COVID, the whole league shuts down. Drew Lock gets COVID, we're still playing. Sam, how ridiculous was that?
It is pretty ridiculous. I commend the Broncos for going out there and playing that football game. I can't imagine those players were like, oh, no, we shouldn't play. They want to still go out there and play that game. They don't want to forfeit and say, oh, we're just not going to play because we're down all of our quarterbacks. But, yeah, it brings up a good point how you push back all these games because, Lamar and, a lot of Baltimore players test positive for COVID, but you have all three of your quarterbacks on the Broncos get ruled out, put on the COVID list, and none of them can play. So it's just, yeah, it's really crazy to see what a time 2020 is.
Props to Kendall Hinton coming off the practice squad midnight, 12 hours before your game. Wide receiver, played at Wake Forest, quarterback, no practice reps with the team, barely knows the playbook, I would say, and comes in. Granted, he did not look like he's ever thrown a football before, but I will cut him some slack considering that he was probably not expecting this, which, again, I think, your mentality as a professional sport, you always need to be prepared for the unexpected, but that's a different story. He did not look good, but props to him for even going out there because that takes guts. That takes grit. Granted, he did look terrible, but you know what? I would say if he had at least a week of practice, he would have looked somewhat better. But props to the Broncos, not props to the NFL. Absolutely terrible. Get it together. Gentlemen, closing thoughts on Week 12 up to this point, hitting the field last episode. John?
I also wanted to say that the 49ers do not have a place to play right now because Santa Clara County issued a ban on contact sports for 3 weeks, so that'll be interesting to see. And to sign off, my closing Super Bowl prediction for this year is going to be Chiefs versus Saints.
Chiefs versus Saints. You have a winner on that?
Chiefs, like I said before.
Chiefs. Sam, wrap us up here, and we'll send it to break.
Closing thoughts. We're Monday afternoon. I got my Eagles playing tonight against the Seahawks. Jaret, sorry, Eagles.
We're losing. I want to lose. Give me a good draft pick.
I just feel like if we get blown out, I would expect some coaching changes within the next few days. Just that simple.
I hope not. I like Doug, but you know what? I like that take though, because something needs to change.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, I appreciate you coming by. All season long. I know, John, you've been here on a lot on the back half. Sam, you were here spread throughout the whole semester. We'll definitely have you guys back next season in 2021. Hopefully, no more COVID. We'll see, though. But that's going to end us now for NFL. When we come back, I'm going to have Kennedy and Kellie, and we're going to talk some college football. Stay with us.
Good morning, fellas, except for Andre.
KG in the building.
James Harden is a stat man.
Yeah, that is right, you're right.
He's the best scorer.
He has 120 straight points now. Bro, 120 straight points now. He doesn't pass.
All right, let's do this. Let's get down to business, guys.
He's still got Aaron Gordon, PJ Tucker, and them boys. Come on now. What about Carl?
Tom Brady kisses his son.
Facts.
I think it's kind of special, though.
What?
What are you talking about, man? Crazy, man. Don't ever say that. This is your dad,
And welcome back to Hitting the Field. I am now joined by Kennedy Collins and Kellie Campbell. First off, ladies, Kennedy, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you, Jaret?
Doing great, closing out the season strong. And Kellie, I think this is your first time joining Hitting the Field this season. I know you've been on some of the other shows, but welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing really great. I'm super excited to finally be on. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right. And ladies, you guys are here to join us and talk some college football. And what better topic to get into right away than the first female player in college football on the active roster, Sarah Fuller, the Vanderbilt kicker. Although Vanderbilt got absolutely destroyed, she did kick off, did a squib kick in which was perfectly executed to how the team asked her to do. Yet she was still very slandered on Twitter, given a lot of hate all over social media, which just because she was a girl. So I'll let you girls take the floor and talk about women in sports, and because I thought it was an amazing thing and really cool for sports in general. But Kennedy, I'll let you start us off and just, break down what happened.
Definitely. Vanderbilt was getting whoops regardless. They're 0-9, so, we can't really expect much from them. But I think for Sarah Fuller, this is a big moment, not just for women, but for her. Just the fact that they had that much confidence in her to bring her in game, not just to have you on the roster as if you can't play, but to play you, is a really big thing for women in sports. And I'm really glad that they gave her the opportunity. And I think the biggest thing for me was seeing her interact with the Missouri coach and having him come up to her and just speaking about it. I think that was a really big thing. And I'm really glad that she had that opportunity to do that in the way that she handled herself, especially with the hate that she's been given. I think it just shows women have a long ways to go, but I think they're making a way.
Kellie, what did you think of the weekend event?
I was super excited to see a woman in college football. That was amazing to me. I really liked how they put "play like a girl" on the back of the helmets. I think that's super inspiring for a lot of young women who aspire to be in sports and who are told that they can't be. I think that was a huge step in the right direction. With 2020 being such a interesting year, it's nice to see something so positive come out of it and get some diversity in college football as far as gender goes. But I think it was awesome. I applaud her. I think she executed exactly what they wanted her to. I think she did great. I was super excited to watch her play.
Now, I just want to quickly focus on the hate she was given for absolutely no reason. When it was announced, people were finding her social media, just tweeting at her, commenting on her pics, whatever, and just saying, "Oh, you're going to get destroyed. Oh, I hope someone absolutely just pancake blocks you, just absolutely runs you over." A lot of rude stuff that I can't even say on camera. My point, as a man, I don't get it because I don't think like that. I think it's great to see women in sports. But I know as a girl, you guys, as a woman, you guys deal with this kind of stuff, more often than I would deal with it. So you guys are better to talk about it. Why do you think girls or women in general in sports receive this kind of, hate? What do you think the reason is, Kennedy?
I would definitely say the first thing off the bat is physical stature. Of course, you look at her, she's 6'2", but I mean, at the same time, she's smaller than a lot of guys, even though kickers are not big players. I think the conversation of putting women in sports like football is a difficult one, because does this mean that women can be linebackers? I can't tell you right now. But I think the first thing that people look at when they see a woman is they see a woman. They don't see a person. They don't see the athleticism that Sarah Fuller has, or a lot of women have. They don't see the caliber of people that they are. They don't see the hard work. They don't see anything outside of that. So I think, we are taught that this is a man's sport. We're taught that this is a man's world. So it's very difficult being a woman and just knowing that you can provide so much more. But of course, all we see is women.
That's a good point. Kellie, you want to add on to that?
First of all, I think the first thing I can say to every male who's giving her hate right now is, how many D1 sports are you playing? Because she's in 2. So while their pipe dreams of playing college football didn't work out, hers did. And I think that makes a lot of guys angry. If you look at the general position of kicker, they're tiny guys. She's no different. She's 6'2". She still plays soccer at Vanderbilt. She still does the training. She still does everything a student athlete would do. She eats, she trains, everything keeps her body in perfect health. So I don't think that makes a big difference. You've seen male kickers get laid out hundreds of times. It's not like an every game thing you see. It's always a possibility. Football is a dangerous sport. There's always a chance of injury. But kicker, generally one of the less injured positions. I think she did great. And I think even if she was put into a position where she needed to make a tackle, I think she could have done that. So she plays soccer, which is a very physical sport. So I don't know why everyone was so worried. I mean, she's probably taller than half the guys who were giving her some bad comments about it. So
No, I would fully agree. We have a show on Hitting the Field Network, Girls on Deck, where, our whole mentality was, let's give girls a platform to speak on, because women belong in sports. People that don't accept that, it's 99% men and that small 1% women for some reason. But I would say it's 99.99999% men that don't agree with that. And it's 2020. Times need to change. We need to change as a society. Man, I'm talking to you. Get it together. I thought it was great to see Sarah Fuller playing. It's great to see a woman in sports. I mean, don't you want to compete against the best competition? Clearly, she was the best kicker Vanderbilt had to offer, because they went through tryouts. It's not like they just said, oh, you're a female, you're going to be on the team because you're a girl. No, they said they put her on the team because she was the best kicker at the tryouts. So if you want to play against the best competition, she was the best competition Vanderbilt had to offer. So
a lot of people are acting like it was like a pick at random. Like, the coaches need to put in their best players, and Vanderbilt being winless, they needed to go outside the box. And she did exactly what they needed her to do. Vanderbilt fans and sports fans around the world should be happy, especially because so much history is being made. This is a positive history being made. It's awesome to see it. So,
and as you mentioned, Vanderbilt's coach was fired, so he was coaching for his job. So he definitely didn't do this so he could lose on purpose and then lose his job. So just want people to keep that in mind for the future. Also, really, social media hate, people are just weird. Just weird. I got nothing else. People are just weird. Okay, well, any closing thoughts you guys want to add before we move on?
I hope to see her again.
I just want to say, Jaret, the conversation does start with men. I think that you just admitting, I'm a man, I don't understand, is the way that it should have been approached for Sarah Fuller and for a lot of women, especially because they're women within their own sports that receive hate for playing their own sports. So I think that it has to start with men just realizing the fact that you're not a woman. You don't know that you have to work 2 times as hard just to get a bare minimum. I think that it's a really great thing to see for Sarah Fuller, because even if this doesn't mean that women start playing football, it means that women can do anything. And it definitely shows hard work, and it shows talent, and it shows that women have it. It's just not being respected like it should, but eventually will.
Kellie, anything else?
Oh, no, I agree with what Kennedy said 100%. Definitely, these are the conversations we need to start having. And I think compared to a few years ago, it's accepted more than it would have been, which is nice. I think that's what we just have to keep working towards, is progression and acceptance and being able to not have your feelings hurt by people doing things they love. Like, why not let her go kick a ball? Like, how does that hurt you? It doesn't. So
It's well said. I got nothing else. You guys said it all. All right. So moving on from Sarah Fuller and history, we're gonna move over to Notre Dame, who is looking to make history, I guess, this season. Notre Dame is now 9-0. They took down North Carolina 31-17 this past weekend, and that took me a bit by surprise. I thought this was a game Notre Dame could be on the ropes here. Kennedy, I'll start with you. Is Notre Dame legit? Like, are they gonna go to the ACC title game? Are they the team?
Well, as far as ACC, I definitely think they've got it. I mean, who else can they compete with? To be honest with you, Jaret, I didn't really think this was a game that we would see Notre Dame break in. I think UNC is one of those teams that they've been in the conversation for what they can do, but they haven't really shown up, especially not against their bigger opponents. But I think for Notre Dame, I'm not sure if this shows that they're playoff contenders, but I think this definitely shows that as far as ACC, they've got it. I mean, Ian Book is playing really well right now. They have great momentum. Of course, after beating Clemson, they have a lot of confidence too. So I think this is a great game for them to show that confidence and show what they can do. ACC, I definitely think they've got it.
Kelly, would you say that Notre Dame is the best team in the ACC, or do you still favor Clemson and healthy? What do you think?
honestly, I am on both ends of the fence, because at the same time, I feel like if Notre Dame and Clemson played again, Clemson would come out the winner, especially if they had Trevor Lawrence. But I'm also a person who's like, oh, you can't put the whole team on one player's back, which is what happened when they played Clemson the first time. They didn't have Trevor, they suffered, and they lost. Well, Notre Dame won, but Clemson lost.
Mm-hmm.
As far as other competition goes, I mean, really, Miami and Clemson are the only two I can think of being remotely challenging. But I see them definitely, first of all, I'm still mad they're not even in a conference, but they get to play in the ACC. I think they should have to join a conference, because my team did like 15 years ago. So they're the last ones who are in a conference. But I definitely see them making it to the ACC title game. And depending on if they can really, they need to have larger margins of victory in my eyes for myself to really see them as someone who can make it in the college football playoff. I think they'll get a bid if they remain undefeated, but I don't know if they will be able to live up to the standards of the college football playoff. And it might be a blowout like we usually would see in the first round of the college football playoff. Usually there's one team that chokes, and I could see that being Notre Dame if they don't start doing some more explosive stuff and having some more larger victories.
I was going to say, you mentioned explosive stuff, but I mean, for them, it's kind of just been, here's the game plan, follow the game plan, get the win. I mean, Ian Book's done his job as a game manager, I would say. Kennedy, do you think they need to make the explosive plays, or do they just need to grind out these games and win the close ones?
I completely agree with you, Jaret. I think they've pretty much been executing everything they said they're going to do, and just being consistent with that, I think, is enough for Notre Dame. A lot of people talked about their defense coming into the season. Do they have defense to compete with teams like Clemson or Miami? Against UNC, they only allowed 85 rushing yards. So I think you see that their defense is not doing spectacular things. Their offense is neither, but at the same time, they're being as consistent as they can be to where they could be a solid contender. Like I said, is Ian Book the best quarterback in the ACC? Probably not, especially not with Trevor Lawrence playing healthy and how he was earlier in the season. But I think, like you were saying, they're doing what they need to do in order to be a contender. And I think that it'll work for them.
Kelly, closing thoughts. Notre Dame has 2 games left this season. Clemson has 1, also presuming that FSU game doesn't get rescheduled. So it is presumed that they are going to meet for a rematch in the ACC championship. Who do you have winning that game?
Honestly, probably Clemson. I don't see them. I think they're upset. They go to the college football playoff every year. They have I'm pretty sure they have since it started back in 2014, 2013. I see them out for revenge. I definitely see Clemson. It's going to be a close game, I think, but I see Trevor Lawrence doing his magic and finding a way to win that game.
Kennedy, if that rematch does happen, who do you have?
Definitely Clemson. I mean, you have the chip on your shoulder. Everyone was talking about it when Notre Dame beat them. And, of course, like you said, Trevor Lawrence wasn't playing. So I think with Trevor Lawrence coming back, you're going to have to win this game just to prove a lot of things to a lot of people and to kind of shut down the Notre Dame talk. I think, of course, they're gunning for the playoffs and how far that they can make it. But at the same time, they know that this is more than the playoffs. This is just kind of getting our name back out there and making sure people know who's on top.
Good point. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. It was a good game without Trevor Lawrence, so I think it's going to be an even better game with Trevor Lawrence. So that's something to look forward to. Now, moving on to, I think, my favorite headline from the weekend, a fellow Jaret, the first person I've ever met with their name spelled exactly the same way as mine. Jaret Patterson ran 409 yards and 8 touchdowns. Yes, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns for Buffalo. Wow, I was just – when I saw this at halftime, I'm like, oh, Jaret? I was like, I wondered how his name's spelled. And sure enough, when I saw it was spelled that way, he had all my support from the jump. Kellie, what did you think of Jaret Patterson's performance for Buffalo?
Absolutely insane. I was watching a couple games at that time, and my friend, I was looking on Twitter, and I think he had 5 touchdowns in the first half. I was like, oh my gosh, this is insanity. Looking at his stats, watching his highlights, he is an explosive runner. That's exactly the type of running back I love to see play. He makes those exciting moves, and I mean, 8 touchdowns, like, I can't complain. That's an exciting game to watch. That's an exciting player to watch, and I'm really excited to see how he does the rest of the season and then eventually in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of performance gets the scouts looking at you. Kennedy, what'd you think of Jaret's performance? Not me, but the other Jaret.
Both Jarets had a really great performance. But I think we saw in the Bowling Green game that he had 301 yards and then 4 touchdowns. So we saw a little bit of a glimpse of what he can do. And in the 4 games they played, he already has 920 rushing yards. I thought it was really funny because the first thing I thought when I saw his highlights were Barry Sanders. I was like, size-wise, weight-wise, they're pretty much the same. And then Barry Sanders tweeted about it saying, this is a great player. You guys probably need to watch out for him. I think it was not only a stunning performance, but he looked like he was playing against a JV team. I mean, just his ability to stay on his feet and just find those holes was absolutely great to watch. I think this really does put him on the radar for scouts. And I think it's a great move for him and really exciting to see him.
No, and you mentioned, his previous games. But when you have a game like this, you pull up the stats. You got to look to see what this guy's done. And, I mean, he's had great seasons in his first 2 seasons. As a true freshman, he ran it for over 1,000 yards, averaging over 5 yards a carry, and had 14 touchdowns. Last year, he had 19 touchdowns. It was averaging 5.8 yards a carry with, I think it was 1,800. I think he had 1,799 yards. And this season, he's at 920 in 4 games and 16 touchdowns. Absolutely insane. So, my question to you, if he was at a better school, would we be talking about him in a Heisman race?
100%. Yes.
So is he going to get Mackenzie Milton and he's not at a Power 5, so he's not going to even finish top 5 in voting? Because if Heisman should go to the best player, and he so far has been the best player this season.
Right. But the bias exists, and the Group of 5 conferences will never get the same respect that the Power 5 does. I see that just being a fan of a Power 5 school and attending a Group of 5 school, the differences, and it's a lot. I think a lot of people, when they think Heisman, think quarterback. So already that's a disadvantage, and the fact that he's also at a Group of 5 school is even more of a disadvantage. But he's an insane player, and he should be getting that recognition on more of a national platform.
Kennedy, would you agree?
I will be honest and say that I don't know if you can honestly put up these types of numbers if you were playing in a bigger school.
That's fair.
We have to think about if he was in a completely different conference. If you're playing in the ACC and you're playing against, Notre Dame or Miami, are you going to be able to find those gaps and get those type of yards? Probably not.
Maybe if he was in the Big Ten. Not a lot of defense going on there this season.
Now you have a point there.
There's not defense anywhere.
I mean, we honestly don't know. I think these types of numbers are Heisman numbers, but we know that the Heisman already, like Kellie was saying, they have a bias towards quarterbacks. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last running back to win was Reggie Bush in 2010. So, I mean, we've seen they've kind of filtered it out to be a quarterback award. I think for Jaret Patterson, this is great numbers. I think regardless if it's a Heisman or not, this shows that he can compete in the NFL and be a really great player that's going to develop in the NFL. So that's the one thing that I want to see out of him.
Yeah, it just looked like a video game out there. It looked like he was playing the Road to Glory and NCAA 14, and he was just calling runs for himself and running all over him. But yeah, no, I would agree. He's definitely got Sunday talent based off of what I've seen so far this season. Granted, it's a small sample size, but you know what? That's kind of all it takes to get an invite to the combine nowadays. So props to him.
Having fun, and that's what's nice to see when you watch football. Is he looked like he was having a good time. So he was 8 touchdowns. So
yeah, he still hasn't answered my Twitter DM, but that's okay. I'll forgive him. I did DM him. I was like, hey, represent all the Jarets out there, and I haven't heard back. But Jaret Patterson, shout out to you. You're a beast. I love the name too. So moving on to our final topic of today, it's going to be the the disaster of Michigan. And, Kellie, since we had you on the show, I wanted to mention Penn State for you. I know you are a Penn State fan. Penn State might have ended Jim Harbaugh's career at Michigan. Kellie, Penn State was 0-5. I'm so sorry for that. But they're 1-5, and honestly, it feels like they're 10-0.
Honestly, I was ecstatic after we beat Michigan. If this was the year we were going to go winless and have maybe win one game, I am so happy it was against Michigan. We haven't won at the Big House since 2009. James Franklin, although he has been to like 3 New Year's Six Bowls in the last 4 years, Penn State fans are tough. He's getting a lot of heat because we're having a messy season, but we've had to put in, Penn State had to put in a true freshman as a running back, wide receivers, and tight ends, which is the first time that's ever been done in the 150 plus years the football program has been around. But Jim Harbaugh can add to his resume. His record against 0-5 teams is 0-1, which is so funny. And I think Michigan needs to do the right thing and fire someone they're paying $9 million a year to be average. So not even average.
Below average.
Bottom of the totem pole this season. So it was a mess. I thought we were bad, and then I watched Michigan, and I was like, oh, wow. Somehow they're worse.
That is a good point. Kennedy, is it the end of the Harbaugh era?
I knew as soon as you said that this is what you wanted to talk about, that the Jim Harbaugh conversation would come up because we talked about it with Alex. But, I mean, it's time. I mean, it's not like Michigan has bad recruits. They have a pretty solid quarterback, if you ask me. I mean, it's not Heisman.
Solid 2 quarterbacks.
Yes, solid 2. And, I mean, you have a solid defense as well because a lot of the guys that they have on their line are good guys. But, I mean, with that, it doesn't mean anything if you don't have a coach that's going to be able to, make something happen with that. So I think with Harbaugh, like Kellie was saying, Penn State has not played their best football, but I can give Penn State that excuse because of the competition that they're playing against. And, I mean, you allow them to have their best rushing game of the season with 254 yards, and your Michigan's defense is looking like they are playing in the Big Ten. So I think
that was a true freshman, I think, appearing in his 2nd or 3rd game ever. Exactly. He had to be the starter because the starter got injured last game. And
yeah, exactly. I'm just looking through Michigan's seasons, and it's like his closest game, which granted, if you go back and look at the tape, his knee was down, and he should have been stopped short on 4th down back to 2016, the Ohio State-Michigan game. So I thought he was down. Replay, I thought showed he was down. But they didn't rule he was down. So he is winless against Ohio State. But, how do you justify keeping someone for so long when you can't beat your biggest rival? Like Kennedy, do they let him get the chance to play against Ohio State this year, or is he gone before December 12th?
if I'm them, kick them out before Ohio State. I mean, what more are you going to do against an Ohio State team that's ranked 2 or 3? I'm not exactly sure what they're ranked, but I mean, every single year they're competing. And I mean, with Michigan playing the way that they are, what can you expect more against a team like Ohio State? I mean, this is not just about the Ohio State game or any games that they would have had prior to a shortened season. This is about your program suffering because you have a coach who's not doing anything with the recruits that he's bringing in. You don't have a solid offense, you don't have a solid defense, and it's not because you have bad recruits, it's just because you don't know what to do with them. So I think if Michigan wants to be back in a conversation of playing for a championship or just playing for a conference, they're going to have to fire Jim Harbaugh, and they're going to have to really look deeper into their coaching staff as well and figure out what's going wrong and how they're going to rectify that.
Well said. Kellie, closing thoughts. Harbaugh, Michigan,
I
Big
see him
Ten.
getting fired, but I don't see it happening before the end of the season. They're probably going to let him go have his, 5th, 6th loss against Ohio State.
I stopped counting after 2.
Oh yeah, it's I haven't seen Michigan beat Ohio State. I don't know if I ever have. I mean, I know they have, but I don't know if I've ever seen it with my own eyes. I think that Michigan, surprisingly, somehow will finish at the bottom of the Big Ten East. I don't see them winning another game. So I think this is Harbaugh's last year. I'm excited to see who they have else come in. But Michigan has the guys. They have the talent. They need to get someone in there who can make it a unit, make them work, because 3rd place in the East every single year, and worse this year, is not something the school with the largest football stadium in the country wants. Like, nobody wants that. So.
Yeah. I mean, he also had, Dylan McCaffrey there, and that never saw the field. Like, this highly recruited quarterback that we never saw play.
He now plays for Northwestern, right?
Yeah, he transferred, right?
Yep.
It's a disaster. Disaster for Michigan. Quickly, I'll give you guys closing thoughts on, hitting the field as a whole or college football, but I quickly want to say that it was announced a couple minutes ago that Sarah Fuller was named SEC Special Teams Player of the Week. So there you go. To all the critics out there, she has an award and you don't. But Kennedy, we'll start with you. Just closing thoughts overall. Anything you want to say, shout out, whatever. Floor's yours.
Definitely. This has been a great experience for me. This is my first semester doing hitting the field, and I just want to say thank you guys so much. I've never done any type of on-camera or anything of the sort, but I mean, just talking sports. And I mean, we talked in the beginning about women in sports, and this gives women a platform. We don't have any type of discrimination here, which I think is really big. Jaret, you've been amazing with just encouraging women and just telling us, hey, you want to talk sports? I don't care if you want to talk basketball. I don't care if you want to talk about women empowerment, just having these people around you. We have an amazing team of people. Everybody's so encouraging. Everybody is so uplifting, and we help each other to grow. So I'm very grateful for this and sad to see it go, but had an amazing time with what we've had.
Well, we'll be back in 2021. Hopefully no COVID-19. Kellie, your first show on Hitting the Field, but I know you've been a part of the Hitting the Field Network shows, so just anything?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was a really good conversation. I'm super happy to be a part of it, especially with you guys, so woke, so it's nice to have conversation with people who are on the same wavelength as you. But I'm super excited for the upcoming school year. I know we're going to do a lot of big things. I can't wait to see them come into play. I think, Jaret, the way you've handled this semester, you've done such a good job. I applaud you for that. And also thank you for giving everyone a fair opportunity of getting their shot. So that's something, you don't really play favorites, which is nice. You let everyone get their opportunity. So thank you for that. And yeah, I'm super excited for the future. Can't wait to see what happens next.
No, I'm excited. Hopefully, I cross my fingers, pray every day that we'll be back in the studio next semester. Still working out those details. That's the inside information. I'm still working out details. We still have a meeting to figure that out. But yeah, I appreciate everyone. You girls especially. I love that we get new people every single semester that come through. Kellie, you came back. I know you've been here, come and go, but I know you've been here more now that your school's kind of lightened up. And Kennedy coming this semester. It's always great to have new faces and fresh ideas here at Hitting the Field because that's what keeps it fresh and keeps it going for our 11th season. So I appreciate everyone stopping by. That's going to wrap it up for college football and these wonderful women that have joined me today. But when we come back, we're going to deliver a little rant, and that's going to be it for 2020. Stay with us.
I'm in charge of the meeting this week. So you know what we're going to talk about? Basketball. The second thing we're going to talk about this week is basketball. Okay? And the third and last thing we're going to talk about is basketball.
Yeah. God, dude. It's ridiculous. I want to quit. Can I quit? Take that.
Look at the screen. What are we talking about this week?
Basketball.
Welcome back to Hitting the Field. That's right. It's time to go on a rant. But first, I quickly got to shout out everyone. Season 11 has been a huge success. Sean Green, John Whitley, Johnny Jackson, my whole social media team that we've put together, Q, Julia, everyone else I'm forgetting. I literally just can't thank everyone enough. We didn't know what we were expecting with COVID this year. We really didn't. We didn't know what would happen. But we put together a great team. And yeah, I really can't be happier with how the season turned out. Alex Funderburg for filling in on the hosting desk. So yeah, I'll start my rant. First off, I guess I've already been in my rant, but who knows? This may very well be my last episode I host of Hitting the Field. Future's unknown. Nightly comes next semester, so school comes first, obviously. But yeah, I don't know where the future of the show lies with me hosting it. Obviously, I'm still going to be around being the executive producer and stuff, but there could be a new face sitting in this very chair. Well, this is my desk chair, so that'd be a little weird if they were in this very chair. But you get what I'm saying. We got something cooking. But yeah, I'm really excited for 2021. 2020, yeah, just eyes. Like, what is going on? But you know what? We persevere, and that's all that matters. I really got nothing for a sports rant other than go sports, and COVID needs to stop ruining them. Hopefully Carson Wentz plays well tonight, or Jalen Hurts, whoever plays quarterback. I don't know. I just want to win. I'm sick of losing. But yeah, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Christmas season's coming up, Hanukkah season, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, or if you don't celebrate, it's still a great time of the year to be with family. No school, no work. So enjoy the time off. I appreciate everyone again. This has been an amazing season of Hitting the Field. Probably my favorite. And I've been a part of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my 7th season of Hitting the Field. Yeah, 7th season of Hitting the Field. So I can't even explain like the feeling I have right now. But yeah, that's going to do it for now. And for one last time, this has been your host, Jaret Kappelman. And we will see you in season 12.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me